Hello, this is Mike from Dimensional Walking, and today I want to talk about an experience I had with Kiwani lapsaritis. As you know from past videos, I had done some, uh, over a many year period, we had done some little, I call mini expeditions, which would be traveling and looking for Sasquatch and taking vortex photography and just having some good times out in the woods and learning about nature, etc., etc. So we did these little mini expeditions, which typically were between, say, 3 and 4 days, and it would be, in Montana, in Washington, in we did some in Arizona, we did some in Washington. What did I leave out? Idaho. So those are kind of the states that was primarily the focus. Sometimes it would just be a day trip. And one of the experience we had on a day trip was in Western Washington State, and it was climbing up Mount Rainier. And I don't mean we were climbing to go to the top of Mount Rainier, but we were trying to get to a point of a glacier. There's I can't I think it's on the when I say the north side, and there's a glacier that comes pretty low down the mountain, and it's fairly easily accessible to hikers that are not mountain climbers. Okay, so one day Kiwani was dowsing. He's a big dowser, and so he was dowsing a map, and he got the feeling or the and actually he did this, I believe, when we got just before we got out of the car to go hike, and he said that he had seen, he visualized that there was a couple of Sasquatch that were going across the base of this glacier area, and he was pretty certain we could reach that particular point, and maybe at least, see the footprints. We probably wouldn't get to see the Sasquatch because either it would be gone, or it was a dimensional type Sasquatch that would just dematerialize back into another dimension. So anyways, I was game for that. He had his wonderful dog Comanche with him, and Comanche was this incredible dog, and he would go with us on quite a few of the adventures. He did pass on several years after this particular adventure, but he was an absolutely wonderful and incredible dog. I mean, he would and Kiwani told me he would sit at edges of vortex areas, and he would just watch entities coming and going through the vortex. And it was just he'd be moving his head. He'd see these entities. He'd normally just watch them, occasionally maybe bark, but that was about it. But anyways, he was an amazing dog, and it was always a pleasure to have him along with us. So anyways, we started climbing. We started climbing up this mountain, up Mount Rainier, and so everything was going good. It was an absolutely beautiful summer day, and you could see for golly miles and miles, and it was absolutely spectacular. Okay, so we're walking up here, and all of a sudden, Kiwani hollers, "Stop!" And I'm a little bit startled, not knowing exactly what that meant. Besides stopping, but I didn't know why he was saying that. I thought, oh well, maybe there's a Sasquatch close, and we have to be quiet or something. I didn't know. So, anyways, so he stopped, I stopped, and he told me to kind of back off about 15 feet or so. I said, okay, that's all good. And didn't tell me anything else. That was it. That was my instructions, and I followed his instructions. So, anyways, I backed off, and he stood there, and Comanche, his dog was right underneath right next to him, and just stood there too. Everybody was just standing at this point. And so, anyways, I see Kiwani looking off in the distance, and at first I'm not seeing anything. I don't see anything, but he's focused on something. And so finally, I see something comes into my vision, is two dots, two specks of something, and they were kind of swirling and whirling. At first, if this would have been 15 or 20 years later, I would have said, well, maybe they're drones or something. But at this time, there were no drones at all. So I guess the next thing that popped in my mind had to be birds. Okay. And sure enough, as these birds came closer to us, they kind of circled and they kind of, did this, that, and the other. They weren't flying in a straight line towards us. They were kind of wandering towards us. I see they're pretty big birds. They actually are. So anyways, the birds are coming closer and closer to us, and I'm not really sure what's going to happen next. But Kiwani is there, and he's kind of focusing on these birds, and so is the dog. I'm saying, wow, okay, well, we'll see. And all of a sudden, I swear, the most incredible thing I've ever seen, almost in my whole life, is one of the two birds, dive bombs basically at breakneck speed right towards Kiwani. And, this all happened in a matter of a couple seconds, or not even a couple seconds. It was just incredible. And he just puts his arm straight out, just like I am. And he's still looking kind of up at them, straight up. And he had a jacket on because it was kind of cool up there. Obviously, we had elevation. So he had a jacket on him. So that bird, which turned out to be a bird of prey, which turned out to be a seahawk, I guess osprey is the other name for them, landed with his talons, came down on his arm and just stood there on his arm. And I swear, I thought I was going to pass out right there, really, because it was so surreal. It was just incredibly surreal. And here's the dog. The dog is right there underneath him looking up at this bird. And the bird doesn't seem to be bothered by the dog. That's the other weird thing. And so anyways, so they're looking at each other. The bird is looking at Kiwani. The Kiwani's looking at the bird. I'm kind of there in shock. Okay? And so they're communicating back, and I guess they're communicating. I don't really know what they were doing at the time until I talked to Kiwani afterwards. So I think it was about 5 minutes. It's hard when you're in these kind of surreal situations to remember how long things are. It seemed longer, but I guess maybe it was only about 5 minutes. But that seemed like a very long time, a long 5 minutes, okay? Because what happened, unfortunately, I guess, somebody came up the trail, and the bird and the big bird, I think it was about a 2 foot. It seemed to be about 2. It seemed bigger than that, but I don't think it was more than 2 feet. It came, and it was crazy. Anyways, the bird again took off, and up the trail, right behind this hiker, came a woodchuck. And this is a big woodchuck. I didn't even know what it was at first. It looked like a beaver to me, but Kiwani said no, it was a woodchuck. So this bird, here we are, Kiwani. I'm 15 feet away. The dog is right still there, and here comes this woodchuck. And this woodchuck stops, looks at Kiwani, and looks like he's communicating with Kiwani. And I'm saying, what the hell is next? I heard stories that Kiwani could do the same thing to mountain lions. Now, I did not witness the mountain lion thing, but I had heard from people, credible people, I thought, that said that he did the same thing with mountain lions. So obviously he's an animal whisperer. And I found out the amazing way in that experience. So the woodchuck finally walks away, and everything was good. So Kiwani talked to me, and I asked him about what was the deal. How did you get the birds to come in? And he said that. He also told me, he said if that person when he came up the road, he was going to have the other one. He thought the other one would come down and both of them land on his arm. And I said, now I'm glad you didn't, because that would have been way too much for me. I would have just been wiped out right there. Okay, but anyways. And I believe he could have. I definitely believe. After seeing one, 2 would have been fairly easy to do, I'm sure. So he said that he was projecting love to these birds. He just projected this wonderful, loving feeling to them. And that's what drew him in. And wow, I got to believe it. I mean, it was really something. So bottom line is, we never got to the glacier. We never saw the Sasquatch. And you know what? I didn't need to see the Sasquatch or the footprints. I just didn't. because what I saw was so freaking amazing. Between the birds, which were amazing, and that woodchuck thing was quite incredible also. So, anyways, with all that said, Kiwani can be quite truly magical. I mean, there's other experiences, some really really amazing things, and he is the real McCoy. He's an animal whisperer. He's a Sasquatch whisperer, whatever you want to call it. It was incredible. It's that was by far, I will never forget that. And I've mentioned it in some of the other videos, but I want to kind of devote a full video to it, and I just wanted to talk about it a little more in depth because I wanted to share that again with my audience, because hopefully you see in my enthusiasm and my excitement how amazing it was. So, with all that said, like Roy Rogers says, happy trails until we meet again. Thank you. If you wanted to, please comment, of course. Please send us any private emails to dimensionalwalking@gmail.com. We need your subscriptions. Please give us some subscriptions. We need them. Everybody on YouTube needs them. We really need them. So, other than that, that's about it. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.